and welcome back to Art Talk Out West. Thank you for joining me on our fourth episode. Before we get into it, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Cabral people of the Darug Nation on the land that we are here now in Fairfield. Paying respect to all elders, past, present, and emerging, and always acknowledging that they are our first storytellers and our first creatives on this land that we are so lucky to be here on. Now, guys, I am very excited to introduce to you Gillian Kayrooz.
Hello.
Hello. Do you know that your Kayrooz rhymes with Fadals? Like, I was saying that to myself this morning.
I mean, that's like an honor,
Yeah.
you know? Like, I don't feel like it's even fair to compare the names of Pharaohs, yeah.
But it rhymes. It
I
is
know, yeah.
to you. All right, guys. So, as you know, Charnel Rizk here with, I'm going to call you Jill throughout the show. And I met Jill for the first time 3 years ago now. Yeah, maybe three and a half years ago. And we met through PYT Ensemble. And I am just in awe and amazed about the work that she's been doing. And I'm excited for you all to get to know her. I know what she's been up to. So Jill, do you want to just introduce yourself?
My name is Gillian Kayrooz. I am an artist, a visual artist from Western Sydney. I grew up in Guildford, so maybe like 10 minutes from here in Fairfield. And I've done quite a few things, but yeah, my main practice now is a visual artist. And I also work as a curator at the moment. But, main goal is full-time artist at some point. But also the crazy thing that I feel like we should mention, we met at PYT.
Yeah.
But we also grew up in the same area.
Yeah.
Went to the same school.
Yes.
And didn't come to that conclusion until we met at a creative program in Western Sydney.
Yeah.
Probably close to 10 years later.
Yeah. Yes. And that's why when I first met you, I was like in my head, I'm like, okay, yes, I need to like get to know this girl because we grew up in Maryland's Guildford, it's merged as one.
Yep.
Went to the same high school, shout out Certain College. Yeah, but we were only 2 years apart.
Yeah.
But we never crossed paths
which is
until we met in the arts.
Yeah.
But I like that. I love when I come across like a Lebanese girl from the area. Maryland's went to Certain College and she's in the arts because I think a lot of the time, like I wonder if if I think back to when I was like that high school girl, I never thought that we could enter the arts.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's a fairly common experience, a shared experience for many young creatives from Western Sydney. And I'd like to think it's changing.
Yeah.
I think, especially like when I reflect on my time in high school, I knew I wanted to be an artist always. Like, when I was a kid, I was always making and drawing and painting. And like, I just loved art. The times that my parents were like, okay, I guess we'll take you to the gallery. Like they were not sure what to do with me.
The gallery. Yeah.
And, I was always like, this is what I want to do always. And so, visual arts in high school was going to be something that I was always set on doing. And that slowly kind of trickled into just being like, well, that's what I'm going to do after school. But it is funny, like it is that thing when you're in, I think, high school in the area. And again, I want to say it's changing. And I think there will have always been artists and creatives from Western Sydney who have put us on the map and who are working like tirelessly.
Yes.
And have and still create like incredible work.
Yeah.
But it is interesting that I'm like, I don't feel like I always saw them represented in the major or in the Archibald, which was like the one school excursion that we pretty much ever went on.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about why we felt that way. And there's many reasons, to think about why do we feel like we can't go into the arts.
Yes. Why do we feel like that? That's interesting.
Yeah. But I think it's such a testament to like the hard work, the ambition, perseverance, determination for anyone in the arts, but specifically I think from Western Sydney to stick it out, to work hard. And I think that's why it makes it even more special. There's, when you've left school and you're, trying to find ways to connect with creative communities here in Western Sydney.
Yeah.
But it's then extra special when, you meet people who have that shared experience.
Yes. Yeah.
As opposed to, having to do the classic thing where you're like, you go to an art exhibition and people are like, where's that suburb? And you're like, near Parramatta, and
That's what I said. Yeah, Maryland's. Oh, it's near Parramatta.
fully, exactly. So that shared experience, I think, is
Yeah.
really important.
That shared experience always means so much to me. It kind of makes you feel less alone.
Fully.
But it's interesting, like, why did we feel like that? I think culture probably plays a role. And I think also what is represented obviously plays a role as well. Because if you think back to when you were in high school and think about who was around you and who were your role models that were within your circle, I didn't know many people in the arts.
100%. And like, no one in my family has been in the arts.
Yeah.
That is a completely like unknown industry
Yeah.
for my family. And so, and I'm sure that's like a shared experience that for many families, like your child is like, I want to go and do this industry that like has this reputation for being really difficult. And, quite often it's a freelance kind of style of work. I definitely, there's that frustration when you're a teenager where you're like, just let me do it. Like, support me. But, as I've been older, I understand and have empathy that, the worries associated are very much from a place of care I think, or, for me, it's a place of care that, your parents just like want you to be okay,
Yes. Yeah.
be successful, but like,
Yes.
be able to support yourself in the future and that, the hard work will pay off.
Yes.
But I think my mentality has always been like, in any industry, you're going to have to work hard. Like, no matter what job I was going to do, I was going to have to work hard. So I may as well do it for something that I love.
Good, yeah. I love that you think like that. And I like how you can like pinpoint that it does just come from a place of care. And it's true. And it took me a while to realize that as well. Because, I was like this like angry teenager. I was like, oh, why can't I just be an artist? But then I also saw the reality of, well, you need an income and you need to be able to support yourself. And I was glad that I realized that, like, I guess, like within my uni years. And this is what I try to tell a lot of young people as well that like I'll come across. And I've mentioned this in a few of the other podcasts with the other artists, but the reality is life does cost and you do need to set yourself up. You need income coming in, you have bills to pay, like God forbid something happens with your health or whatever, you need to be able to support yourself.
Yeah. And there's also, when you come from a multicultural background, like there's also other often cultural expectations or, like taking care of family, like
Yes.
that is also quite often like an expense that
Yeah.
some people don't consider or need to consider.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to think about having a creative career on a spectrum. Like it doesn't have to be all in, suffering artist that like
Yeah.
can't do anything other than the craft and has to like survive on 2-minute noodles. Like I freaking hate.
I hate that. Can we move from that? There's bigger problems in the world.
But also, like a practice, there are times in your life where that you can be completely just like doing an art practice, and there are times in your life when you can be balancing art practice with another job or study.
Yes.
Or like I think to have and that kind of goes for any job, I think. I'd like to hope. But yeah, to feel that it can ebb and flow, and I think having a practice that stays with you for life. Whether you're a musician or an artist, that doesn't need to have a start and an end date. It ebbs and flows throughout your life. It's a part of you.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, for me, there's been times where, I was studying and I had an art practice, and then I had like 2 part-time jobs, and I was studying and I had an art practice, and then I was doing a part-time job and a day job and my art practice, and then it just went to, 9 to 5 and art practice. And now I'm at a point where I'm about to be part-time, full-time, part-time day job, and then part-time artist. And so it's constantly shifting. And I think to kind of speak frankly about it is important, because there's also this illusion that it's like, cool, you just got to like study and then there'll be a big break and then you made it, end of story, well done. But, I think even the most successful people, that ebb and flow is there forever. And it can be uncomfortable, but I think it's a talent in itself to kind of be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my, yeah. I need to transcribe this. What is your star sign?
Do you want to guess?
Are you a Gemini?
How did you know? That's
Because I'm a Gemini.
Okay, that's why we
I'm a
get along.
Gemini. And I've been like obviously keeping tabs on you for these 3 years,
Mm,
and I did some research on you
mm.
during the week. It's part of part of the job,
Not cricket.
and I've always just resonated with you. I like how you said it's a talent in itself. That is
Mm,
very true.
mm.
And yeah, speaking frank about it, I like, yeah, we're not always going to be full-time practicing artists, and that's the reality of it.
Mm.
Look at any artist, like you said, and that's just how it is. We have to juggle jobs. Sometimes you have, more work here and more work there. It's all about time management as well. But also just, accepting what comes to you and making the most of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So that's how I felt you were a Gemini.
I love that's your skill. Your skill is like guessing.
Look, I don't know
Star
anything
signs.
about star signs. I only know Gemini
Yeah,
stuff.
I love that.
Yeah, but
Just
I know a
resonates.
Gemini when I see it.
That was very impressive.
Yeah.
Um, no, but it's interesting. I think the other thing that I think is important is to know that it doesn't like it can sit alongside an industry that maybe has nothing to do with your practice or the creative industry. And I feel like that's something that um you're doing right now,
Yeah.
having a job speech pathology
Yeah. Yeah.
alongside a creative practice. And I feel like I maybe have like a similar
Mm.
experience. um
Yeah. So
y-
tell us about that.
yeah, so at the moment I work as a curator
Mhm.
at the Powerhouse Museum, the one that's being built in Parramatta.
Lovely.
And like people would probably think that that is very closely aligned with a creative practice, but it is a museum, not a gallery. And so I do kind of have a sense of separation between the work that I do that's more focused on agriculture and food and changing land use in southwest Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
And there are definitely overlaps with my creative practice in terms of thinking about place and people and community and the way I work in my practice. I kind of have a very similar approach in my curatorial work.
Mm.
But there is a sense of separation, I think in comparison, like if I was a art gallery curator,
Yes.
that would be very close.
Yeah.
And like for me, the other jobs that I've had, like I've worked for like social media agency or a creative agency. I've worked with like more community producing programming work, with the Arts and Cultural Exchange in Parramatta previously,
Oh, lovely.
working in high schools on a project called the Barbershop.
I remember I went to one of those
Oh
events.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was so lovely.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that kind of feels quite separated from my artwork, and I think
Mm.
that's like another thing is I think it's maybe stereotypical to kind of think that you have to be like all
Mm-hmm.
in an industry, and I think there are definitely like skills that you can learn from like working in a gallery or working in something that aligns with your practice. But there are also so many skills that you can learn from other experiences that maybe you don't realize apply to your practice or work. And
Of course.
even just talking, like, this is so random, but even just like administrative skills that I've learned,
I was going to bring that up.
yeah, in my day job,
Yeah.
that I've applied to my practice because it is a job.
Yes. Yeah.
I gotta do taxes. You have to do,
Oh my god, yes.
you gotta keep
Get
yourself
up to
accountable.
the taxes or in your BAS to the side. Yeah.
Fully. Um, like that has played a significant role in the way that I can work as an artist and I can support myself and I can,
Yeah.
be sure that I'm paying my taxes.
Of course, yeah. God, taxes
Yeah.
really scare me.
What about you? How do you feel like with your speech pathology job?
Yeah.
Are there ways that surprisingly have influenced your music creative practice?
Yeah, no, of course. I think a lot of people think, when I say speech therapy and artist, they're like, oh, okay, so you work with voice overall. And that is true. Yes. I'm always like, warming up my clients' voices and stuff. But a lot of the work I do is like language and literacy based. And a lot of my clients are nonverbal, um, and have disabilities. So it's not always just, doing voice stuff. But I will always say that it does intertwine. I think one of the big things is, I'm always setting goals for my clients and we're always trying to better them and help their communication and their expression and find their voice. And then that kind of mirrors me as an artist because I'm always trying to find and like set my own goals, reach them. Um, yeah. And then I think a lot of the time, from my clients, I've had to be patient and learn patience from them, and just learn to track progress. And then I kind of do the same thing with where I talk with my hands. And then I do the same thing with myself as an artist. So it does intertwine, you know. I watch my clients grow and then I kind of watch myself grow in my art. Um, yeah, so there's that like interconnection, but also the administration skills, yes. Just even just like, you know, my calendar and my schedule, always having that clearly planned and, you know, time management, taxes, sending emails, like even just, you know, sending a professional email. Like I learnt that through working as a clinician. Now I use that as an artist. Things like that, yeah. And then also, you know, being a speech therapist in the community here in Western Sydney, I'm working with a lot of different people. And then in the arts, I've kind of like I've obviously built those communication skills where I can now I feel like communicate to different people in the arts, if that makes sense. And then, you know, community engagement kind of intertwines between allied health and art, you know, especially in Western Sydney. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
100%. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting the way that the kind of multi-layered ways that it, overlaps both, or it kind of like gives to both your professional practice and then also your creative practice
Yeah.
and personal as
Yes.
well.
Yeah. And also, I work with a lot of kids. Like 90% of my clients are kids in like kindergarten and under. And so, you know, they're so playful and childlike, obviously. And that's good for me as an actor. You know, I think actors need to be playful and childlike at times and, you know, allow yourself to be vulnerable. So that's kind of, you know, a nice
Mm.
interconnection as well.
The other crazy thing, I was just thinking about it then, like, all those skills I also learned after university. Like
Mm.
being in a job taught me that. And
Yes.
so I went to Sydney College of the Arts,
Yes.
which is an art school.
Mhm.
And it's crazy to reflect on what professional skills that are extremely relevant to be able to work professionally as an artist
Mhm.
were not taught to me
Mhm.
in university.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I understand that, like the most common thing is like let's say we use tax as an example again, like the idea that it's like we can't provide tax advice because, you have to go to a tax accountant for that.
Mhm.
But that, like that can't be the excuse for not being able to provide realistic advice, even if it's
Yes.
just, you know, I don't know, like understanding that how you pay tax as a freelancer,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
just like the day to day of what earning an income might look like,
Mhm.
as an artist or in
Yeah.
any creative field.
Yes.
So I think, yeah, having many experiences across many jobs
Mhm.
has been,
Yes.
a way to kind of then build my creative practice.
100%. I love that. I think experience is key and experience will build you.
Mm.
Like when I think about myself as a like speech therapist, I've worked in a few different settings and under a few different people. And each time like I pick up skills from them, whether it's my boss or my mentor, like I'm observing them, I'm going to pick up how you're operating and I'm going to take that in and then use that with whatever, whether it's my next speech job or my next like creative job. Um, and then I think it's all just business skills as well. And so as artists, I tell people, you need to think of yourself as the business.
Mm.
Um, yeah. And it's true though. Like you're the business, you're what's making the money, and the art, obviously. But just having those skills, I think, will like save you down the line. And yeah, back to tax. It's nobody really tells you, hey, this is what you've got to do
Yeah.
until like no one ever told me. I literally just had to find like a good accountant and it's awkward I was awkward at first because like it's this like firm full of like accounting men. I'm like
Oh.
I feel like a clown. But then, you know, listen to them and they should, you know,
Yeah.
guide you in what to do. But please get on top of that.
Totally. And also, it's like you're not the first creative walking through the door or a freelancer.
Yes.
And again, it's like for the most part, they can apply one kind of like approach for a freelancer
Mm-hmm.
and be able to give you advice.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like we've really gone down.
Yeah, I will. Okay, yeah, no. Alright, so funny. All right, enough of the tax. Enough of the tax. I'm interested. So you said no one in your family is an art,
Yeah.
in the arts.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, even your grandparents, no one's creative or
I mean, I don't want to use the term no one was creative.
yeah.
I'm sure, I mean, I know that on one side, my grandfather like worked in a suit shop in Parramatta,
Cool.
and he was like making like some of the early jerseys for the Eels.
Wow.
This is like back
I
in the
love
day.
that. Look at the
Yeah,
history.
yeah. So, I'm sure there's some creative skills, whether that's like tailoring or, you know, I'm trying to think like, creativity has
No,
no
that's okay.
bounds, right?
I only ask this because a
Yeah,
lot of the time we all say, "Oh, no one in my family was really an artist or creative."
yeah,
But I think if we think back, they were. There are
completely.
very like whether it's cooking or sewing or reciting a poem, which like a lot of our in our culture,
Yeah,
like if
yeah,
we look at our grandparents and grandparents, they were making up poems on the spot.
fully. And that's why I don't want to like dismiss
Yeah.
not being creative.
Yes. Yeah.
But if I'm talking specifically about like, you know, starting a career, establishing a career,
Yeah.
entering that industry, then yeah, parents and grandparents definitely, they had other working jobs.
Yes.
But there has to be, deep down those elements, whether it's like ingenuity or yeah, ambition again. Like I think there are so many skills that I credit to my parents specifically.
Yeah.
So like my dad, he has worked in insurance, but now more so works with like in the disability sector, and like now he's retired, working more so with non-for-profits to do with disability.
Lovely.
My mum, she was a teacher,
Yeah.
and so she worked in Holroyd at I think I know it's changed names, but it's called the Intensive English Centre.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So she mainly worked.
Oh, the IUC.
Yeah, yeah. So she mainly worked with refugees and asylum seekers. So when I think about my art practice, both of them like did and still do a lot of community work.
Yeah.
But also, like they're just hardworking people,
Of course.
And when you that point when you grow up and your parents kind of you have that moment that clicks and you're like, God, you're just people that were trying to support your family or like you're just people like us, and you have that moment that shifts. And so I kind of think that was something that also helps to drive me and my work. And so even though I say that no one was creative, and I've definitely had to like navigate the industry from scratch, and a lot of hard work has gone into trying to understand, and still try I'm still learning, I'm still um trying to understand the visual art world, both here in Australia and overseas. But I think, yeah, the kind of skills that they've implemented in me have guided me, even in ways that they probably haven't realized. It's probably the first time they're going to hear me talk about them like this. So, but it's important to recognize that.
100%. That is beautiful.
Mm.
God bless you and your parents and their hard work, honestly. Yeah.
Thank you.
I resonate with that as well.
Mm.
I like that. I think I learned hard work from my parents as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, something about just, acknowledging our parents as well, whether and I feel like they're very supportive towards you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're, for a long time, my mum was like, "Are you sure you don't want to be a teacher?"
Yeah.
And I had to keep being like, "I don't want to be a teacher, like chill." And there was like definitely I feel like there was a part of her, like when I got my curatorial job at 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a part of her that was like,
Yeah, of course.
but I think especially in the last few years, like being able to take them to some really significant exhibitions and, show them what I'm doing. I'm not just kind of like doing this random hobby.
Yeah.
And they've kind of been a bit surprised. And I think that's also been like one of the most rewarding parts.
But I get it because my parents are the same, okay? And I think if I wasn't working as a speech therapist and didn't have that degree, my parents would be stressed.
Totally, yeah.
But now I think because I work in the degree, and I've honestly, guys, I think I've said this in every podcast, but it's like, okay, box tick, they can breathe a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know what? Back to what we were saying at the start, it only comes from a place of care.
100%.
Yeah.
I think I have a really good story to kind of summarize that point about, because I was saying that it's been really nice being able to have these moments where I've taken them to some exhibitions, and I think they've kind of started to realize like, okay, like this is not just like a hobby. So I feel like, and I speak to this story because I think it's like it's important to me. But so in high school, we're talking about going to the same school, and in visual arts, I was really lucky to have an incredible visual arts teacher. Her name was Mrs. Odonga.
I remember
Yeah.
She's lovely.
And I think, we can talk about the importance of education, but I think having a teacher, and this goes for any subject, but I think having a teacher that is so passionate about what they're teaching, that made all the difference for me, because she really opened me up to understanding art beyond traditional mediums, and like understanding art for what it could be, which was endless. Like it was it was such a powerful um understanding and kind of introduction to art, contemporary art, all of it. And I remember she introduced an artist, which was Tracy Moffat, who is a First Nation Australian artist, works a lot with video work. And I remember, we were learning about kind of Picasso and lots of kind of like traditional textbook, stuff that's in the curriculum. But Tracy Moffat, who was is an incredible artist but works a lot with film, and there was this film called Night Cries and this photographic series called Something More, and it just blew my mind, because I was like, it made me feel uncomfortable, and I wanted to learn more. And this video work in particular, it was just such a like life-changing moment and experience with art. And that was maybe like year 9, something like that. I was just fully like, oh my gosh, you can, she's like a living female artist from Australia. And she's making such incredible, phenomenal work. And, I knew that she had been in exhibit at the MCA. And so just like that just changed the dynamics for what I kind of thought art was.
Beautiful.
And so then maybe 10 years later, this was 2022, I was exhibiting at the Murray Art Museum in Albury.
Wow.
Which is on the border of New South Wales, Victoria.
Yeah.
And my parents came. I was like, this is like a significant show, because it's at like a proper gallery, like a museum gallery.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all proper museum galleries, but I just mean like probably the biggest solo show I've had up to that point. And so it was like my show, and then in the next room there was a retrospective of Tracy Moffat's Something More series, the series that I had like been introduced to in high school.
Wow.
And it was just that moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like, she wasn't there or anything, but I was just that moment to be like, I could turn my head, and our works, our exhibitions, were right next to each other. And, my parents knew who Tracy Moffat was. So I think it like clicked for them. They were taking photos of me in her exhibition.
Oh, I love that.
I was like, do you want to take photos of me in my exhibition? But no, that was kind of like one of those first like full circle moments. And yeah, it's always like stuck.
Beautiful. Wow, what a lovely full circle moment. But you know what? I think that also just shows the power of, I don't know if I want to say manifestation, but I think the power of believing in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And putting in the work. Yeah.
I mean, I think a huge part of like what we call manifestation, I don't want to say that manifestation's like you just thinking and waiting.
Yeah, it's not.
But it's like, it's planting that seed of belief in yourself.
Yeah.
And kind of knowing that chipping away and that hard work will lead you
100%.
close. It might not be that exact,
yes,
picture perfect idea of what you thought that goal was, but it leads you towards it.
Yes, it has to lead you somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, all that hard work will pay off.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. What a beautiful story.
No, thank you.
Alrighty. And I've had similar like full circle moments. I think they're such beautiful moments for artists. Yeah.
Well, surely like releasing a music video, like your music video this year, was like a full circle moment,
Yes, it was. I think the back and forth video was a very nice full circle moment for me. And I've got some more interesting ones coming out, so
exciting.
Yeah. Well done. Very proud of you.
So are you.
Yeah. There's just so many projects you've been on. Name to me some of the most exciting things you've been up to.
That's such a hard question.
Yeah, I know it is. And I'm also interested, like, what does a day in your life look like? Let's answer one at a time. What do you want to answer first?
Let's do some of my favorite projects.
Yes.
So there's a couple that I'll talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every kind of like, as an artist, I kind of do a wide span of types of projects.
Yes.
So, when I'm making like a body of work, let's say, which is an artwork, and, most of the time it's like, and what I'm trying to do more of this year is, just make work
Mm.
for me for the sake of making, as opposed to being like, I have a deadline, I got to make something for. But a lot of the photographic projects that I've made, or the most recent work that I made for the fellowship, which was a video work called Leave Your Shoes at the Door. And that was made like, that had family in it, that had friends in it. A lot of my photographic projects and work to date is like got friends in it or family.
Beautiful.
But like, I really love that collaborative process of being able to have my friends or family in it. That was actually the first time my family was in it. But my friends have kind of always like been in my work since year 12. Like my HSC major.
My friends are in my work as well.
Yeah. And so like, that's like also super special that they've been there since day one. But that video work in particular, it felt like a real kind of like summary of my emerging practice, or the work that I was been trying to make and trying to understand. It was set in Parramatta, in like the empty lot that my aunt's apartment looks over.
Cool.
It was also in my best friend Nat, her parents' backyard, that I feel like I've just kind of partly grown up in,
Yeah.
And then also Blauser Hall in Granville.
Oh, the pink one.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
shooter lives 2 minutes away. I drive.
Everyone knows it.
Yes, yeah.
I feel like, because my mum used to shop at the the giant Woolies.
Oh my
there.
god, yes. I literally grew up in that Woolies.
Yeah. So
Are you from Blauser?
well, I'm from Upshotty.
Oh, Pshari.
Yeah.
What? I'm from Hachi. It's the same region. Of course, this is why we
Mountains
resonate.
region.
We're literally, yeah, literally. It's like the Parramatta of kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
And you so that have that accent back, anyways.
this is a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, that work was really special to make, because I was so grounded in all these really personal places in Western Sydney that also have all these connections to, family lineage and like friend lineage, all that kind of stuff. So that work was really like deeply personal and like one of my favorites. And then that was also exhibited in the fellowship, which is the Create New South Wales, which is like the arts funding.
Well done on that. Congratulations. I saw that.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Yeah, so that was like the work itself wasn't like what the fellowship is like judged on, but it's kind of like partly. So that was kind of the work that I presented when I received that fellowship last year, the Create New South Wales Art Space Emerging Artist Fellowship. So that that has to be like one of my favorite works. That it felt like a real good statement. All the hard work.
100%.
Yeah.
Wow. I love how she's just like, saying this. These are major things, like really big achievements. Well done.
Thank you.
Very inspiring.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then I guess like another project that I'll quickly speak to that is kind of very different from that. So is more of a community project I got invited to work on with UTP in Bankstown, so Urban Theatre Projects, who are an organisation that have been operating for decades now. And, they operate and work with many different artists, both, from Western Sydney or Australia or internationally. And that project was called 15 Cigarettes. So it was four artists from Sydney of like Lebanese lineage background. Some of us, like myself, were Australian born. Some of us had migrated. Some migrated earlier, some migrated later, like a mix. And then we worked with 4 elderly Lebanese women from the community. And so this was born out of the idea that during COVID, 15 cigarettes, or loneliness was equating to the health effects of 15 cigarettes. And so working with these women who, maybe their partners have passed away, or, they're living by themselves. And so we literally made work with them. And that, that was something that, especially because my grandparents had passed away, and I, was very close to both my grandmothers. And so this was like, I felt like I had adopted like four grandmothers, which was really special. And especially like for me, at the moment I'm like learning Arabic, because that's something that has faded out in my family in the space of
I remember I
generation.
messaged you about this.
Yeah.
And I've started doing classes.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
But like doing a project like that, aside from just being like an artistic kind of output, there was so much that was so incredible about the project. And a huge part of that was being able to kind of, better connect to my family's history and, being able to hear these stories that I haven't been able to hear from my own parents about probably what it was like to migrate or, life in the village, that kind of stuff. So it was, yeah, one of the most like memorable and meaningful projects that I've worked on to date.
That is beautiful. Wow. I'm getting emotionally like hearing about that. Wow. I'm gonna and yeah. Is there pictures or anything? And
Yeah, there's
I
pictures online.
okay, great.
I think I don't know
Where
if
can we find them?
UTP website,
Okay,
15 cigarettes.
great.
There was a screening this time last year. I don't know if the works are online yet,
Hmm.
but I think we're hoping to do some sort of like next iteration of the
Yes,
program.
you definitely should.
I know there was talks of like a play. I don't know. I
Like,
think some of the women were like, yeah, and some of them were like, absolutely not. But no, it'll be
how
interesting to be able to work
cute.
together from here
Wow.
and see what's next.
Yeah, well done. That is
Mm,
beautiful.
thank you.
And God rest the souls of your beautiful grandmas.
Thank you.
I'm sure they're very proud of you.
Yeah.
Amazing work you're doing. I just want to pause for a minute and can we just acknowledge the fact that we have so like two first, second generation Lebanese Australians here. Your family comes from Sharri, my family comes from Hachit. We met at an arts program in Fairfield 3 years ago in like 2021. We both grew up in Maryland, Guildford, and went to Serdon College. We're both practicing artists and very hard workers. And here we are, like on this podcast, just sharing experiences and stories, like from the mountains to Fairfield,
Fully.
literally.
I would
Wow.
I would like to think that, if we were to think back like a 100, 200 years ago, that someone of our ancestors would be sitting like this, sharing like
Yes,
coffee,
I
on a
think
like
so.
morning in the mountains.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. That's actually touched my heart because we're so close, like
Yeah.
where we are from.
But a testament to our family
Of
for,
course.
making the move,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
going
that's
through
a
hardship. Yeah.
yep. Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Um
Your
okay.
second question,
Yes, my
a
second
day in the
question
life.
is what does a day in your life look like? I'm very interested and I
Mm.
ask everyone this on my podcast because a lot of people ask me, "What Chanel, what the hell is your day? What do your days look like?" Cuz you're just there's everything going on.
Yeah.
Share with us.
Good question. I'm like, what do I do? I guess at the moment, and this is probably the most like not boring, but just like regimented my life has been. I get up, I am traveling to the office in Parramatta.
Mhm.
So I'm like up at 7:15, try and eat breakfast. The last 2 weeks I've been trying to go for a run,
Mhm.
which, we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, so we
Um,
love people trying to invest in
yeah,
their health
trying new things.
and wellness. Yes.
So I go to the office. I am in the office every day. No, working from home right now, but that's okay. So in the office, 9 to 5, then I'll come home. Then I usually go, I love powerlifting, like lifting weights
I
has
remember
always been
this. Yeah.
my thing.
I love lifting weights too.
Yep. So go to the gym
Mhm.
usually after work. If I'm not like, I don't know, sometimes I'll be going to an art exhibition or seeing friends, it's important, or seeing family as well. And then sometimes at the moment, because I have been working full time in my art practice,
Mhm.
a lot of that time comes after work,
Yes.
working on my practice,
Yeah.
or on the weekends,
Yes.
which, I acknowledge is not always the healthiest balance.
Yeah, I acknowledge that as well. But
Yeah. But also, like it's necessary for me at this point in my
sometimes you just
life.
have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And, having to be quite regimented and disciplined, which is like probably the most difficult part of any job or anything that you want to achieve is like discipline. Trying to be disciplined and like, yeah, doing some art stuff, my work, my emails, admin, and cook dinner with my partner.
Cute.
And maybe watch an episode of TV.
Nice. Yeah.
And try and be in bed at a reasonable time.
Yes.
That's been a fairly like standard routine at the moment. But on a day like today, like if I have every second Friday at the moment is my art day. But because I'm about to transition to be part-time day job, part-time art, I'm hoping my days off or like the second half of the week will look a bit more like get up, go to the gym, or like have some health time,
Yes.
and then spend the day being able to just work on my practice,
Mhm.
and then kind of being able to have a bit more space for, just like health, mental health,
Mhm.
yeah, just like, my own time, because I
Yes,
feel
of
like
course.
that was kind of coming last for a bit of
Yeah.
a while,
Yeah, I feel that.
which, again, like I, it's been my choice. Like, I don't want to say that it's like
Yes, yeah.
anyone that is in a creative practice, you have to like suddenly, you know, put that last. But, it's been my choice that I've just like had
Of
to
course,
balance
yeah.
those things and knowing it's not going to be forever as
Yeah.
well.
That's it. Yeah. I feel that, yeah. That's how it is sometimes. Look, for me, a lot of the time my artwork does come after seeing all of my clients, so it's usually at night, and on the weekends. And yeah, you put yourself last. It's not always the healthiest. You
Mm.
do need to find time for yourself. But I love that like the gym is in your routine. I
Yeah,
think, just having time to move your body and focus on your health is very important. And also just being active, I feel like it really, and having that structure and routine really helps with everything else.
totally. I think, yeah, there's a sense of being grounded, even in routine, just to be
Yeah.
like, if, take removing it like a decision making process
Yes.
and letting yourself just like totally be consumed by what you're doing, whether that's like, an art practice. But for me, like, even when I go into the gym, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like to be like have a sense of mindfulness in an activity is healthy. It's
Yeah.
being able to be completely tuned out from having to like think like I am at work,
Yes, yes.
even if it is like a physical kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for me, I think that that is my time of like relaxing to an extent because I am chilled out listening to music, just like doing the reps.
So I love that. Honestly, it's my favorite thing to listen to like usually for me it's like hip
Hip
hop
hop.
and just lift weights.
Yeah,
I love that. I
totally.
feel so like strong.
Fully.
Yeah.
It's empowering.
It's so empowering, yeah. And I probably look like this little girl in the gym, but like it's my
And then
favorite.
you're like 100 kilos dead.
Honestly, yeah. I can lift heavy guys.
I
And I know,
don't doubt it.
yeah, and I know you can as well. Yeah.
Don't
Whatever it
underestimate
is.
us.
Yeah. Oh, this is funny. Okay. So on to my next point, which I'm dying to ask you about. You were heading to Dubai.
I'm heading to Sharjah,
Oh, okay,
which
yes.
which is the next city from Dubai, but I have to fly into Dubai.
Nice.
Yes. So yes, I as part of I have to kind of explain the fellowship
Yes.
because the fellowship, Create New South Wales Art Space Emerging Artist Fellowship, which was a fellowship process that I was a part of. It happens every year. It's been happening since 1997. Recognizes emerging artists in New South Wales, and they get awarded with $30,000 to complete a project, like a professional development project.
Yeah.
So, you can't spend that money on a new car or, a lot of people were asking me that. They're like, house deposit? I was like, no.
That's funny.
So my proposal, which was looking at image making as truth telling,
Yeah.
that is a project that I will be working on and delivering over the next year. So it was broken up into a few different sections. So I have some mentorships that I'm going to complete this year. So one with Joanne Sard, who is an artist who is from Wollongong but worked a lot in Western Sydney and is now based in Beirut. And Khaled Sabsabi, who is an incredible visual artist based in Western Sydney, who migrated from Lebanon to Australia when he was young and has always been in the Western Sydney creative scene and, a huge mentor for many people in Western Sydney.
So yeah, a piece of my writing was in the same museum as College.
Yeah, Fairfield?
Fairfield, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
It was the
Oh,
You were actually a part of it as well, but I think I was in the second part of it.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm talking
Beyond
about?
the Beyond Knowing exhibition?
Kind of, yes. Yeah, so I think was that the one you were a part of?
I did a panel discussion with Khaled. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And then there was like a second part to it, like later in the year.
Yeah.
And I wrote a piece on coffee and his
Oh,
artwork was shown. And
yeah, because I think that the work for that exhibition had.
yeah,
He was working with coffee
working
for the
with coffee.
paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's an amazing artist. Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, so I'll be completing a mentorship under the guidance of Khaled as well. And then I'll be doing a project with the Campbelltown Art Centre and I'm trying to work with the Arab Image Foundation, who are also based in Beirut, and that I want to build a program that also like is working with myself, but also for other emerging female Western Sydney visual artists.
Nice.
So that program's like in the making.
Yeah.
And then the last part of it was a travel component.
Mm.
So I'm going to go to Sharjah, which is next to like the Emirate. Yeah. Yeah, the Emirate that's above Dubai
Nice.
in the UAE.
Great.
For the Sharjah Biennale, which is like a huge art festival.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting, and is a phenomenal kind of curatorial team made up of 5 female curators this year. And like I was fortunate enough to go to the last Biennale with Urban Theatre Projects, and so that kind of was like a life-changing experience, being able to kind of like even just that was the first time I went to the Middle East.
Wow.
So or went back, like me as a person from like Middle Eastern descent went back to the Middle East.
Yeah.
That was like kind of a huge moment. And so
beautiful.
Even though I'm my absolute ambition is to be able to go to Lebanon.
Yes, yeah.
This is kind of like part of establishing more connections in the Middle East for me. And yeah, the Sharjah Biennale is like yeah, if you have the chance to go, highly recommend.
I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, let me look at prices.
But yeah, it's like almost completely made up of either First Nation or artists of color, which I just hadn't seen in any other kind of art context.
Yeah.
And the work that was being made like last time especially was like incredibly like resonated with me and the work that I want to make, and thinking about especially like rewriting histories and historical narratives. Was something that I think is important in my work, and was really I saw really reflected what was really I could really see in the work at Sharjah, and I felt like I reflected that in my practice. I'm trying to work out if I like phrase that the right way.
No, I get you. Are you trying to say you could see your work reflected in theirs?
Yeah.
How was that going back to the Middle East? Well, going to the Middle East, like was there a shift in your mind?
Well, what was really interesting, like when we first like arrived in Dubai, and we were like walking along the streets just like gonna go find a bite to eat. And the thing that I kind of really felt was like I was like, this feels like Western Sydney.
Yeah.
Because like, all the grocery shop awnings were in English and Arabic.
Yeah.
And like Dubai's a fairly multicultural place as well.
Yeah.
There are many like migrant communities there now as well.
Yeah.
So being able to kind of hear and see something that felt very familiar. And the other thing that I didn't realize that since coming back to Western Sydney, I'm like, oh, I know what that is now, is the smell of oud.
Yes.
I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And then, like so many sellers over there.
Yeah.
And then I came back here and someone would walk past me, in Merrylands, in Guildford.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know what that smell is now, which was pretty crazy.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah, it was like interesting. It was like being able to kind of peel back the layers and like better understand home.
Yes.
But I think until I go to Lebanon, that will be the real.
And you will go.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I think when you go, I'm going to ask you again, how was that? What was the shift?
We'll do part 2.
Yeah, we'll do a part 2. Because whenever I go back to Lebanon, I feel like I come back and like my artistry vision has kind of changed or just become stronger. It's like I feel like, okay, my purpose is more like now I know where I'm going.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, last question topic to wrap it up. Let's talk about Western Sydney. I guess what it means to you. How do you think the art is looking now in Western Sydney, and how can we make art more accessible to Western Sydney?
This is a really good question.
Yeah, I know you have lots to say.
Yeah, I mean, like Western Sydney is such a huge part of me. I will always like 100% hardcore rep Western Sydney because it made me the person that I am. It made me the artist that I am. It nourished my grandparents, my parents. Like, it's been such a huge part of me and my family's life in Australia. I'm very lucky. I have to acknowledge, like living on Darug land in particular. Acknowledge how lucky we are every single day to be living on these lands.
Yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think a lot of us need to just sometimes stop in the middle of our day and have that like thankfulness because we are very lucky to be here on Darug land.
Yeah. And so, I don't want to at all dismiss that there have been, there's been an art scene in Western Sydney from like the very start.
Yes.
And there have been artists and musicians, forever working and like representing the area and making incredible music and incredible art and have really like, set the path for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the main thing, and I don't want to like jump to this too fast, but like funding has to be a huge part of the conversation for Western Sydney. I didn't realize this until recently, but 1 in 10 Australians live in Western Sydney. Like that is insane. Like the number of people that live here. And I think, it's like the classic thing of people, thinking that Western Sydney is just like a suburb size when it's such a huge,
Very
varied area that is continuing to grow.
Yes.
And, there are so many industries that Western Sydney contributes to in such like huge ways.
Yeah.
But if we're to talk about like the arts very specifically, and I want to like bring up my little quote now.
Bring it up.
So there was a thing called the State of the Arts report that was made by Western Sydney University, and it examined government funding specifically. So this is like the thing that I want to kind of speak to very quickly. So it says from 2015 to 2022, Western Sydney, representing 10% of Australia's population, received 3.4% of federal funding for the arts, while the rest of Sydney received 23.5% of total funding, while representing 8.5% of Australia's population.
Damn.
So to think of like, I think people recognize that Western Sydney provides some of like the best arts, music, work in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia.
Yeah.
But, how come the funding doesn't represent that? And I think that conversation has been going on for decades. And, now I'm at a stage where like I'm in a few advisory kind of groups to be able to provide some thoughts on, what does the government need to do? And it's interesting because it kind of feels like a no-brainer. It's like, cool, like let's think about how we could support artists to have a living wage. Other countries are doing it, even if it is just like a standard living wage, but so that you don't have to take up that second or third part-time job and you can like be able to kind of develop your practice in that very early stage.
Yeah.
Or whether it's, being able to kind of have more facilities available, have more resources available. When I think about, the programs that we've been through, whether it's smaller art organizations, non-for-profits, that kind of thing, we like that's how I got my start.
Yeah.
Even though I went to university, like it really was those independent, small orgs who pretty much rely like grant to grant for their survival.
Yeah.
And whose staff are beyond capacity and go above and beyond to to support young creatives in the area.
PYT is an example. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I come across at PYT who might have done like an arts degree say nothing really happened until they joined PYT.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is, if there was an art, and there used to be an art school in Western Sydney that was, I think, through WSU.
Okay.
But, if there was an art school in Western Sydney, like that would change everything for me. Like, or for many people, but I would have 100% gone to a Western Sydney art school if there was one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, that was like something that I like, going from like going to school in Marylands to then going to university in Roselle.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was like a huge moment. Like maybe I was in a bubble as well. I pretty much just like was in the area and that's it. Hadn't really like visited much outside.
Yeah.
But vice versa, like the kind of questions that I remember me and my best friend who I went to art school with that we got about Western Sydney, I was like, it was shocking, borderline racist. And, like it still happens in the workplace as well. And I'm like, we're in 2025 now. If you haven't traveled past Ashfield, like that's an issue.
Yes. Yeah.
But in saying that, and I feel like I'm being quite negative right now, but
no, it's not negative. It's the truth. And it's a conversation that we need to have.
Yeah. And I think like at the end of the day and like, even though right now I'm like living outside the area, for example, I think it's important that, and I think it speaks to why people who grew up in the area are so like staunchly adamant about supporting the area and representing
Yeah.
the area is
Yes.
because if government's not going to do that, then like
Yeah.
we have to support each other.
Yeah.
And so, again, like Western Sydney like made me who I am. It made me being able to like see the world in the way that I do. And so I think, I always want to be able to create work that represents my community, like in the way that we want to see ourselves as opposed to like the stereotype or the outside looking in perspective. And I hope that, through us as creatives, like as we kind of build in our careers, we can like give back, that we can see that growth and that change happen. I hope that those statistics change.
I hope so too.
Because 3% to, over 20% discrepancy in just Sydney alone in funding is wild.
It is. On that point you just made, like you hope it changes. I think people like you will allow for this change. And I see it. Like, yeah, just already, your contribution to the arts, but then also in community engagement, and you're mentoring like some, young
Yeah,
cats.
yeah.
One of them was my family.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, shout out Jana. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just listening to this whole podcast, this hour or over an hour or whatever. Like thank you for the work that you are doing and putting out.
It's a collective effort.
Yeah.
Like I have to iterate that. Like I can't sit here and be like, you're wrong. Like it 100% is a collective effort. And it's only because of, the like my mentors, the people who have said to me, it is possible. It's gonna be hard, but like it's possible.
Yeah.
I'm just like being able to then reiterate that experience to other people, other young people.
Yeah.
And like regardless of whether you want it as a career or not, like to have that space to create, the opportunity to create, for someone to be like, whatever ambition you have, no matter your circumstances, no matter your background, no matter your area, like that ambition, like it's accurate. It's you can take it and you can run with it, and to like not give up before you've even started.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ambition is priceless.
100%.
I think that's in someone's song, but it is. Ambition is priceless. Yeah, I love the ambition in you. I want to finish on something, and I want to share this with you. So, because yes to everything you've just said. I don't know if you've heard of the World Cultural Lebanese Union. I had only just found out about them last year. I entered one of their like writing comps. It had to be based around Lebanese culture or Lebanon. And I placed second. So then I got to it's not actually I wrote a letter called D Feroz to Feroz. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'll share it on social media or whatever. But anyways, I went to the office to go speak to the people who run this, and they were like these two like Lebanese, really like big businessmen. And we sat and we had a conversation, and I was like, I'm a practicing artist in Western Sydney, surrounded by our culture. Tell me what you're doing, I'll tell you what we're doing. And we had this really lovely conversation. And then, that topic of, this negative stereotype always comes up, whether it's regarding our culture or whether it's just regarding Western Sydney in general. And he said to me, one thing we're trying to do is we're just trying to display excellence. And this really stuck with me because if we just display the excellence of our culture, or of our area, or of Western Sydney, or whoever you are and wherever you come from, I think displaying that excellence can help in kind of overcoming that stereotype. Obviously, we can't always just change the way people view us and think, but he was really big on let's just display excellence. Look at the excellence around us.
I love that.
And you are excellence. You are excellence overall. And that's why I say people like you, I hope, inshallah, will like help change this statistic. And I can see it happening. It might take time. Everything takes time. We know that. But yeah, I see it moving forward.
I think likewise though, like I think even us having this discussion right now is a stepping point.
Yes, yeah.
And I would like to think that, in 5, 10, 15, 40 years, when we can reflect on this discussion, that we'll be still practicing.
Yes.
And that we can then look at the young people in the area, the young Lebanese people who are creative and be able to share their excellence.
Yeah. And I think I want to finish on that
Yeah.
and always be proud to showcase your excellence. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on here, Gillian. Jill, Kayrooz, rhymes with fatals. This was so lovely. Thank you so much. You've shared such amazing insight and experiences. Everybody follow Jill on social media. Where can we find you?
My Instagram is just my name, Gillian Kayrooz. I have a website, gilliankayroos.com.au. But yeah, you can catch me on there. I post what I'm up to, but yeah, always open for a chat. Feel free to reach out if you need anything. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Love and light. Stay safe. And yeah, always showcase your excellence.